I wasn't supposed to be home that early. The plan was simple: hit the gym, grab groceries, maybe unwind with a podcast on the drive home. But traffic was unusually light that afternoon and the gym was swarming with a group class that had overtaken every corner. I took it as a sign. I figured I'd surprise Megan. Maybe we'd order Thai, crack open a bottle of wine, and ease into the weekend together. It was the kind of thing we hadn't done in a while, something normal, something easy. But the moment I walked through the door, the air shifted. It's hard to explain unless you've lived it, that strange, sixth sense that tells you something is off before your brain has the words to match the feeling. The house was still, too still. Usually, our dog, Murphy, would greet me at the door with his usual tail-wagging enthusiasm. Not today. His bed was empty. The only sound was the shower running upstairs, steady and rhythmic. I stood in the foyer, motionless. There wasn't anything dramatic. No disheveled bed, no whispering voices or stray pair of shoes. Just small things, quiet things. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and walked toward the stairs, my footsteps louder than usual against the hardwood. Then I noticed the scent. It was subtle but distinct. Not her perfume. Not mine. A lingering trace of masculine cologne floated in the air upstairs. I followed it, slow and cautious, almost against my will. When I got to the bedroom, my stomach tightened. The bed was made. Too perfectly. On the nightstand were 2 wine glasses, still damp as if just rinsed and set aside in a hurry. One had a faint lipstick mark. The other didn't. The throw blanket on the end of the bed was creased strangely, like someone had sat there and tried to smooth it out afterward. Then I saw it. A crisp, blue dress shirt neatly folded over the back of the accent chair in the corner. It wasn't mine. Not even close. I didn't recognize the brand, the style, or the size. And it didn't belong to any of our usual guests. Our parents lived out of state, and our social circle was mostly couples who would have had no reason to undress in our bedroom. I stared at it like it might move on its own. My pulse was pounding, the hum of the shower still going in the background like a ticking clock. That's when Megan stepped out of the bathroom. She was wrapped in a towel, steam trailing behind her like a veil. Her wet hair was pulled to one side, and she looked startled for a split second, just one, but recovered fast. Too fast. "Oh," she said almost cheerfully. "You're home early." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. My eyes flicked toward the shirt, then back to her. She followed my gaze without hesitation and smiled. "That? It's Jeremy's shirt," she said, walking to the dresser and pulling out pajamas like this was any other night. "My cousin. He stopped by earlier. Had some wine, chatted for a bit, and left in a hurry, completely forgot it." I didn't respond. I just watched her. Megan was always good under pressure. She had that steady, unshakable tone like a lawyer prepping a jury. But something about the way she said it didn't sit right. A cousin. One I'd never heard of. She didn't stumble over the name or the story. If anything, it felt rehearsed, polished. Too clean. And yet, she moved through the room like nothing was wrong. She towel-dried her hair, sat at her vanity, and asked how my day was, like we weren't standing in a room with evidence of someone else's presence. I wanted to ask questions. I really did. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I muttered something about traffic being light and headed to the kitchen under the pretense of getting water. She didn't follow. Didn't ask anything. Just hummed softly to herself and disappeared into the bathroom again. In the kitchen, I leaned against the counter and stared at the tile. My mind was running through possibilities, trying to find a version of the story that made sense. Jeremy? Had she ever mentioned a Jeremy? Maybe once, years ago, someone who sent a Christmas card from Ohio or popped up in an old Facebook post. But certainly not someone who would be drinking wine in our bedroom in the middle of the day. And the wine. I hadn't even thought about the wine. I opened the dishwasher. Empty. No sign of the bottle. I checked the trash under the sink, nothing but food wrappers and a banana peel. If they'd had wine, the bottle had either been thrown out somewhere else or someone had taken it with them. That's when I realized the back door had been unlocked. Just slightly. The latch wasn't set. I always checked it before I left. Always. I stepped outside and glanced at the side gate. Closed. No obvious footprints or tire tracks, but the wind had blown leaves all over the yard anyway. Still, something gnawed at me. A strange echo of presence, like someone had been there only moments before and slipped out without a sound. I went back inside, shut the door, and locked it. Megan was already in the bedroom when I returned, dressed now in a hoodie and leggings, scrolling through her phone like none of this was abnormal. She looked up and smiled at me, eyes calm. "You okay?" she asked. I forced a smile and nodded. "Just tired." She didn't press. And just like that, the moment passed. The shirt stayed on the chair. The glasses stayed on the nightstand. Her explanation hung in the air, waiting for me to either accept it or challenge it. I did neither. Instead, I went along with the evening. Ordered Thai like I'd originally planned. We watched a movie, some rom-com she picked, and she laughed at all the right parts. Her hand found mine on the couch like it always did, and from the outside, we probably looked like a couple that still worked. But inside, a fissure had started. A quiet one. A hairline crack that might have healed if ignored. But I knew better. Once you notice a crack, you can't unsee it. And if you press too hard, the whole thing breaks. I didn't sleep much that night. Megan dozed off quickly, curled up under the blanket we both used to fight over. I laid there beside her, eyes fixed on the ceiling, replaying every second of the afternoon in my mind. The shirt, the wine, the scent, the lie, and the way she told it without blinking. After that night, the shirt stayed on the chair for 2 more days. She didn't move it. Neither did I. It became this silent challenge between us, an unspoken acknowledgement that something had shifted. Eventually, it disappeared, folded and tucked away as if that would erase the memory of it. But it was already too late. The damage had big asterisk N. I started noticing things, small, easily dismissible things that on their own wouldn't have meant anything. But together, they formed a picture I didn't want to see. Like the way Megan had suddenly become more private. Her phone, once left carelessly on the coffee table or by the sink, was now surgically attached to her. Face down. Locked with a new code. Always on silent. She'd changed her work schedule, too. Or at least, that's what she said. She was staying late more often, covering for a colleague or finishing up a presentation. Except these late nights always seemed to fall on Thursdays and always ended with her coming home just shy of midnight, eyes a little too bright, cheeks a little too flushed. She'd come in through the back door, quietly, like she was trying not to wake me. Except I wasn't sleeping. Not anymore. I stopped asking where she'd been. Not because I didn't want to know, but because I couldn't trust the answers. Every excuse felt like a script, too polished, too ready. She'd learned to anticipate my questions before I asked them. That scared me more than anything. There was one night, about a week after the shirt, that still sticks with me. I was doing dishes when I heard her voice from the other room. She was on the phone, talking softly, laughing in a way I hadn't heard in a while. Not forced or polite, but light and free. The kind of laugh you give someone who makes your stomach flutter. I dried my hands and stepped into the hallway just as she ended the call. Who was that? I asked casually. She blinked, caught off guard for just a split second. Oh, just Claire from work. She wanted to go over the fundraiser schedule. Sorry if I woke you. You didn't, I said, forcing a smile. Didn't know Claire was that funny. Megan chuckled, brushing it off. She's got this thing about our boss and his bad haircut. Long story. I nodded, but something felt off. Claire had a heavy Boston accent. The voice I heard was deep. Male? I didn't press it. Just filed it away. That became a pattern, collecting these little inconsistencies like puzzle pieces. The time she told me she had to take a taxi home because her car broke down, but I later noticed her key fob still in her purse. Or the evening I surprised her at her office with coffee only to find out she had left 2 hours earlier. When I asked about it, she said she'd gone to a coworker's house to brainstorm a presentation. With who? I asked. She hesitated. Elliot. Remember Elliot Graves? You met him once at the Christmas party. I remembered. He was a neurologist at the hospital, tall, charming, all charisma and ambition. Megan had introduced us like it was no big deal, but there had been something in the way they looked at each other that I hadn't liked. I dismissed it back then. Now, I wasn't so sure. Didn't know you two worked together that closely, I said. Only recently, she replied, already turning her back to me. We're co-presenting at the conference next month. She said it like it was normal. Like there wasn't a thread unraveling between us, one lie at a time. I started remembering more. Like how she once came out of the shower smiling at her phone, giddy, almost, then quickly tucked it under a towel when she saw me. I asked who she was texting. She said it was me. Showed me a draft of a message that said, "Can't wait to see you later," smiley face, but I hadn't received it. The timestamp showed it had been composed but never sent. And the message didn't sound like her usual tone with me. Not quite. That same night, she wore a new perfume to bed. Something floral and heavy, completely different from her usual scent. She said it was a sample from the office gift basket. But I noticed she'd already used enough of it for the bottle to be half empty. I started to keep a mental journal, dates, details, moments. Not because I wanted to accuse her, but because I needed to be sure. Because doubt is like rust, slow, silent, and irreversible once it sets in. One Friday, I checked her car after she left for book club. She'd taken the train, said she didn't want to deal with parking downtown. But something told me to look anyway. In the back seat, tucked under the mat, I found a second phone charger, one I'd never seen before. Different brand, different make. One I didn't recognize. And then there was the lipstick, deep red, almost Berg asterisk and Y smeared slightly on a napkin in the glove compartment. Megan never wore red. She said it clashed with her skin tone. My chest tightened. Still, I said nothing. I told myself I needed real proof. That if I confronted her too soon, I'd just look paranoid. Maybe she'd turn it around on me, say I was imagining things. Maybe I was. But the signs kept stacking up. She'd started dressing differently, too. Subtle at first, new blouses, higher heels, more accessories. Then came the lingerie. Expensive stuff, lacy and delicate, wrapped in tissue paper and stashed behind winter coats in the closet. When I found it, she said it was for me. But she'd never worn it, not once. And when I'd hinted at trying something new in bed, she shut down. Said she was stressed. Tired. Not in the mood. Always tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. The worst part? She didn't even seem guilty. No nervous glances. No flinching when I walked into her room. If anything, she was more relaxed. Happier. Like something or someone was giving her the emotional high she no longer found at home. It all came to a head one night when I came home early again. I walked in and found her sitting on the couch in her robe, a glass of wine in hand, smiling at her phone. She didn't notice me at first. When she finally looked up, her expression froze for just a second. Then she smiled. Hey, you're early again. Yeah, I said. Missed my train. She nodded and set her phone down screen first. Just catching up on some messages. I walked over, kissed her on the cheek, and sat beside her. The phone buzzed once. She didn't reach for it. You okay? She asked. Yeah. Just tired. She smiled again, warm and effortless. And that's when I knew. She was lying. And she was good at it. The night I decided to get confirmation, it wasn't some sudden burst of courage or a dramatic breaking point. It was quiet. Still. Calculated. I sat in the kitchen with the lights dimmed, Megan's favorite playlist humming softly from the speaker she always forgot to turn off. Her scent lingered on the jacket she left draped over the chair, a floral, foreign, not the kind she used to wear when she still dressed for me. She said she had a work dinner. Formal. Important. She had been oddly specific when she mentioned the venue 2 days earlier, an upscale hotel known more for weddings and luxury stays than networking events. That was the first mistake. Megan was never that specific unless she needed her story to hold. She left the house wearing a black satin dress I hadn't seen before, paired with the heels she only ever wore when she wanted to turn heads. Her makeup was flawless, lips colored in a shade darker than usual, eyes lined sharply. She kissed my cheek as she left, told me not to wait up. Her voice was smooth, affectionate even, but the kiss was hollow. Routine. Like she was checking a box before moving on to the night she had really planned. I waited exactly 15 minutes after she left. Then I grabbed my keys and my phone and I drove. The hotel was only 20 minutes away, tucked between a high-rise condo building and a row of boutique restaurants. It was the kind of place that dripped with discretion, valet only, a doorman who smiled without really seeing you, and lighting so soft it made everyone look like a secret. I parked around the corner. No valet. No announcement. Just a silent arrival under the radar. Inside, the lobby was warm and gold-toned, with fresh flowers and soft jazz echoing through the marble. I approached the front desk and gave her name, adding that I was supposed to meet her for dinner. The receptionist didn't even blink. Room 1427, she said, without hesitation. My heart slammed against my ribs. I thanked her and turned away before she could ask anything else. I took the stairs. 14 flights. I needed the time to steel myself. At the 14th floor, I paused, phone in hand. My fingers hovered over the dial pad as I pulled up a spoofing app I'd installed the week before. I keyed in a random number and called her. I pressed my ear to the door of 1427. The phone inside the room rang once. Then again. A few seconds passed before I heard her voice. From the hallway. Muffled. Familiar. Laughing. Then silence. Followed by a man's voice. Low. In asterisk mate. Not panicked, not startled, just comfortable. I raised my phone and started recording. The door didn't open, but the voices kept drifting through the thin space between the frame and the carpet. They weren't arguing. They weren't working. They were relaxing. Clinking glasses. Exchanging inside jokes. I knew that voice. Dr. Elliot Graves. My former friend. My former business partner. He and I had once co-founded a clinic. We had spent years building it from nothing, sweat, Late nights, hard conversations, and harder decisions. He'd been in my home, had dinner at our table, toasted at our wedding, and now apparently he was in a hotel room with my wife. I didn't knock. Instead, I moved to the opposite side of the hallway, phone still rolling, and waited. About 15 minutes later, the door opened. Elliot stepped out first, shirt half-buttoned, tie loose around his neck. He had a glass in his hand and a smug, easy smile on his face. He looked younger than he had in months, like he'd finally figured out the source of his joy. Then Megan followed. She wasn't laughing anymore. Not smiling. Not even talking. She stood behind him, frozen in place, like she felt something shift but didn't know where the crack had started. She was barefoot, her dress slightly wrinkled, her hair messier than when she left the house. She didn't see me. Neither did he. I got everything on camera. Every second. I could have confronted them right then and there. I could have called her name, watched her jump, seen the color drain from her face. I could have told Elliot exactly what kind of friend he really was. But I didn't. I turned and walked away without a sound. Back down 14 flights of stairs. Out the side door of the hotel. Into the cold, cutting night. I didn't sleep that night. After I left the hotel, I sat in my car, engine off, watching couples pass by on the sidewalk, their laughter echoing in the air like a language I no longer understood. The camera roll on my phone showed everything in perfect clarity. Megan stepping out of the hotel room barefoot, Elliot behind her, smug and oblivious. Her eyes scanning the hallway, cautious but never spotting me. I didn't watch the footage more than once. I didn't need to. The moment was already branded in my memory, every detail, every frame. That night, I made 3 decisions. First, I would not confront her. Not directly. Not emotionally. No dramatic scenes or broken furniture or teary accusations. She didn't deserve my heartbreak served on a platter. She deserved silence. Strategy. Distance. Second, I would contact my attorney. The footage would do more than end a marriage. It would speak in court, in negotiations, in professional circles. It wasn't just infidelity, it was betrayal with a coworker who operated within our shared professional space. And third, I would prepare quietly, meticulously. I went home and slept in the guest room. Megan had texted an hour earlier, dinner went late. I'm crashing at Claire's. Love you. Love you. The audacity of that phrase made me laugh out loud. Not bitterly. Not angrily. Just hollow amusement. By sunrise, I was already compiling documents, bank statements, joint account records, old emails. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I knew where to look. The expense history told a story all its own. There were hotel reservations under her name from months earlier, places she claimed were work trips, yet there were no conferences listed in her calendar. Spa charges. Boutique restaurant tabs in cities she'd never mentioned visiting. Rideshare receipts at 1 a.m. from neighborhoods we didn't know anyone in. I took *TS. Printed records. Saved duplicates to an encrypted drive. By noon I had a timeline. That afternoon I called our joint bank and requested a temporary freeze on shared credit cards, citing suspected fraud. I wasn't lying, infidelity is financial fraud at its core. A betrayal of trust. A siphoning of resources into secrets. I also authorized new logins for our shared investment accounts and revoked her access to the business credit lines tied to our clinic. She didn't know yet, but her spending spree was over. The business part was trickier. Megan had no formal role at the clinic, but she had back-end access, used it occasionally for billing projects, something that started back when we were trying to save on payroll. But it was a vulnerability and now it was a risk. I logged into our admin portal and terminated her access permissions across the board. HR, payroll, patient records, vendor accounts, all wiped. She'd find out eventually, but by then it would be too late to touch anything. Elliot was next. He didn't just betray me personally, he crossed every line professionally. The hospital we partnered with had strict ethics rules. Relationships between attending staff and administrators were discouraged, if not outright barred, depending on the power dynamic. And Elliot was well within that zone. He was a department lead. Megan managed data for one of the hospital's trial projects. She wasn't officially under his supervision, but it was close enough. I filed a report with the hospital's ethics committee. Anonymously at first. I attached *TS, the hotel registration details, timestamps that lined up too perfectly. I didn't include the video yet. I was saving that for when it mattered. Within 48 hours, the review process was underway. No one called me directly, but I received a confirmation email that the complaint had been escalated. The language was sterile, corporate, but I could read between the lines. It wasn't a dead-end formality. This had weight. Consequences. Megan came home the next evening. I was at the kitchen table when she walked in, her heels in hand, coat slung over one arm, her phone pressed to her ear. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw me. "Hey," she said, sliding her phone into her bag. "I thought you'd be working late." "Changed my mind." She smiled faintly. "I missed you last night." I said nothing. She hesitated, then stepped forward and kissed the top of my head like she always did, like she hadn't spent the night in bed with someone else. I let her. "Want me to heat up leftovers?" she asked, already moving toward the fridge. "No, thanks." She paused. Looked at me a little longer this time. "You okay?" "Fine." She nodded slowly, watching me with an unreadable expression. "Okay. I'll be upstairs." She didn't notice that I didn't touch my dinner, or that my laptop screen was full of legal tabs and banking spreadsheets. She just drifted up the stairs like everything was fine. By the time she reached the landing, I'd already emailed my lawyer the video. The next morning, I met with him in person. "Clean case," he said after watching the footage. "You'll come out ahead in the divorce. We'll push for majority asset retention, especially with the business tie-in. This isn't just infidelity. It's reckless." I nodded. "What about public exposure?" I asked. He smiled slightly. "We don't need to go public, but we might not have to stop others from connecting dots. Her name will be in the HR inquiry. Word travels." That was enough for me. The following week, Megan received a notice from the hospital's internal board. She didn't tell me right away. I overheard her on the phone, pacing in the hallway, voice tense. "They said it's standard," she was saying. "Just protocol. Someone reported something, they won't even tell me what." She paused. Listened. "No, I didn't tell them anything about us. I didn't need to hear more." She spent the next few days trying to play normal, cooking dinner, watching our shows, sending me texts with heart emojis and inside jokes like we were still us. But it was all static. I barely responded. I wasn't giving her a new script to work from. When I asked to have dinner out, just the two of us, she lit up. We went to a small place we both loved, dim lighting, quiet booths, our spot. She wore the green dress I'd once said made her look unstoppable. Halfway through the meal, I passed her a sealed envelope. "What's this?" she asked, confused. I didn't answer. Just watched. She opened it. Read the first line. Then froze. Her eyes flicked to mine. "You're filing." I already did. Her hands trembled slightly. She set the papers down carefully like they might shatter. "Landon, can we talk first?" "I think we just did." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "Read the rest," I said quietly. "I've already arranged everything." "Everything?" "House division. Car titles. Account transfers. The business structure. Custody of Murphy." She blinked rapidly. "Murphy? I'm keeping him." "You're not around enough." Her lips parted in protest, but I stood. "I'm driving home," I said. "You can take an Uber. Charge it to your new card, yours only." I left her sitting there, dress glowing under the flickering candlelight, papers in hand. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Megan didn't leave the restaurant right away. She stayed in the booth for almost an hour after I left, at least that's what the maitre d' told me when I went back 2 days later to collect the signed credit slip. She hadn't eaten another bite, just sat there, staring at the divorce papers with the same expression I'd seen her use during patient intake, calm, unreadable, calculated. The next morning, she was in the kitchen when I came down. She was dressed like she hadn't slept, oversized hoodie, no makeup, dark circles smudged beneath her eyes. A mug of tea sat untouched in front of her. When she saw me, she straightened like she'd rehearsed something. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Just walked past her and opened the fridge. She sighed. "I know you're angry. I know you feel betrayed. But I think you're blowing this way out of proportion." I turned slowly. "Blowing what out of proportion?" She blinked. "Whatever you think happened." I stared at her, stunned not by the denial, but by how effortlessly she slipped into it. Like this was just another mess to clean up. "I don't think anything," I said quietly. "I know." Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. I continued. "I've seen the footage, Megan. The hotel. You and Elliot. Room 1427. Her shoulders slumped just enough for me to see it, the crack in her armor. It wasn't what it looked like. I actually laughed. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a single, bitter exhale. She reached for her mug, then set it down again. "We were talking. That's it. Barefoot? Shirtless? Drinking wine in a hotel room you registered under your name." Her face hardened. "I needed someone to talk to. You've been distant, Landon. For months." There it was. The pivot. She leaned forward. "You come home later. You stop checking in during the day. You don't even ask me how I am anymore. So your solution was to sleep with my colleague? Her voice dropped. I didn't sleep with him. You want to go on record with that? She hesitated. That's what I thought, I said, stepping back. You can't even lie convincingly anymore. I was lonely, she said, louder now. Do you understand what that feels like? Being in the same house with someone who looks right through you? Who works late and eats dinner in silence and treats you like a roommate? You mean like how you've treated me? She shook her head. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying this didn't come out of nowhere. I tilted my head. So you're the victim. I'm not saying that. You're not saying it. She stood now, angry. You think this is black and white? That I woke up one morning and decided to blow up our marriage? It doesn't work like that. No, I said, voice level. You blew it up one choice at a time. She faltered. I continued. You hid phone calls. Lied about work trips. Spent money behind my back. Let another man touch you, talk to you like I never existed. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. She pressed her hands to her forehead, breathing hard. I didn't mean for this to happen. But it did. Silence stretched between us. Finally, she whispered, I just wanted to feel something. I let that sit. Then I said, congratulations. Now you get to feel everything. She didn't respond. That afternoon, she sent me a long email, 4 paragraphs that read like a therapy session, admissions laced with just enough ambiguity to avoid accountability. She acknowledged emotional confusion, admitted moments of inappropriate closeness, but never used words like affair, cheating, betrayal. Everything was coded, careful, sanitized. She ended it with, I still believe in what we had. I hope we can find a way to recover. Recover. As if this was a storm we'd ride out together. As if she hadn't already jumped ship and left me drowning. That evening, I came home to find a small dinner set on the table. Candles. Wine. Her attempt at her mother's meatloaf, which she always burned. She stood in the kitchen in that same hoodie, trying to smile. I thought we could talk. No, I said. We talked this morning. You used your turn. She blinked. You don't have to do this. I already did. Landon, please. This isn't who we are. I stared at her. You don't get to say who we are anymore. She looked down. Over the next week, her story changed. Shifted. Softened at the edges. Some days she claimed the affair hadn't been physical. Other days she said it had ended months ago. Then once she said it never started at all, that Elliot had misunderstood her intentions. I didn't respond to any of it. The more she twisted the truth, the more I realized she wasn't trying to save the marriage, she was trying to rewrite it. Turn it into a story where she was misunderstood, where her pain justified the damage. A story where I was the cold, inattentive husband and she was the woman who simply lost her way. It was almost impressive. The mental gymnastics. The script rewrites. She started reaching out to friends, mutual ones, planting seeds, testing the waters. I got texts from 2 of them within days. Hey, just checking in, Megan said you 2 are going through a rough patch? She told me you're taking some time apart. Hope everything's okay. I responded once, asked her why. I didn't hear back. The final straw came a few nights later. She came into the living room while I was reading and sat across from me, hands folded. I scheduled a therapy session, she said quietly. I want to understand how I ended up here. I want to fix this. I looked up. You want to fix it because you're scared of being alone. That's not true. You weren't scared of that when you were sneaking out of hotel rooms. That's not fair. Neither is betrayal. She looked away. I thought maybe if I took the first step you'd see that I'm trying. I stood slowly. You took your first step when you gave Elliot your hotel room number. She flinched. And now, I added, I'm taking mine. I walked out of the room, leaving her there, still hoping the story could be rewritten, still believing the ending was negotiable. But it wasn't. The papers were signed within a month. Megan contested at first, half-heartedly, like someone going through the motions, more out of fear than hope. But when the evidence came into play, her resolve crumbled. My lawyer was relentless. Between the footage, the financial discrepancies, and the ethical investigation now surrounding Elliot, she didn't have much ground to stand on. We divided the assets cleanly. She got the house, more out of symbolism than value. It was no longer a home to me. I took the business, the car, and sole custody of Murphy. He still sat by the door waiting when I came home, still curled at my feet every night, like he knew something had broken and was trying to hold it together. I changed all my passwords, rerouted business emails, and cut every remaining thread that connected Megan to my work. Elliot's name disappeared from the clinic's documents within a week of the board's decision. A formal reprimand followed. Rumors swirled around the hospital, and soon enough, he stepped down voluntarily. No goodbye call. No message. Just silence. Megan tried to reach me several times after the divorce was finalized, mostly through long, spiraling texts late at night. They started with apologies, shifted to nostalgia, then drifted into anger when I didn't respond. You don't even want to hear my side. We were more than one mistake. You weren't perfect either, Landon. I blocked her number the day she sent me a photo of an old anniversary card I'd written her. She captioned it, "Does this mean nothing now?" Yes, I wanted to say. It means nothing now. 9 months passed like a long exhale. I relocated to a lakeside town 2 states away, quiet, spacious, untouched by the life I'd left behind. I bought a modest house overlooking the water where mornings were filled with silence and the occasional loon call and evenings with the soft creak of the dock under my feet. The business thrived in my absence. With Elliot gone, my team stepped up. We expanded into new partnerships, streamlined operations, and started offering services that had been backlogged for years. I hired new staff. People I trusted. People who didn't know Megan's name. Weekends belonged to me again. Sometimes I'd take Murphy hiking. Sometimes I'd just read on the porch with coffee that actually stayed hot. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected, laughed without hesitation, and rediscovered how peaceful life could be without the weight of suspicion on my chest. Megan still sent emails every few months. I never read them. Forgiveness didn't interest me. Neither did closure. What I wanted, what I found, was clarity. And in that clarity, I found peace. Not the loud, celebratory kind. The quiet kind. The kind that comes when you no longer question your worth or wonder if your love will be returned with equal hands. I don't know where Megan is now. I don't care. She lost the version of me who would have done anything for her. The one who believed in vows. The one who trusted blindly. But I didn't lose myself. I found someone stronger. Someone free. And that made it all worth surviving.